In this video, I'm going to review the problems that you were asked to do, which involved multiplying numbers of different bases.
So again, our goal in base when we do the multiplication for these is to basically, try to just leave them in the bases they currently in. As we go through this, you're going to see some instances where you start having a lot of work with this multiplication, where it may actually be more beneficial to try to, maybe convert the numbers to base 10, carry through your multiplication, and then convert that answer back to base whatever it's going to be. But for small numbers like this, it's not too bad. I'm still going to start the same way. I'm going to have an answer. It's going to be base 4 eventually. So, but 2 base 4 times 3 base 4. Since they are numbers, that are less than 4, they're going to be the same thing in base 10, so it's going to equal 6. Now, that's 6 in base 10. In base 4, that's going to be 12 base 4. So I would write the 2 here, base 4, carry the 1. And then I'm going to have 3 sum 4 plus times 3 times 4 plus 1 base 4. Now, all these numbers are equal to the same thing in base 10 because they're smaller than 4. So I'm going to have 9 plus 1, which equals 10 in base 10. In base 4, that's going to be a 6. There's going to be 1 base 4 and 6, actually 2 base 4s and 2 left over. So this would be corresponding to 22 in base 4. And so, the 3 times 3 with the addition of 1 is going to be 22. And so this answer in base 4 would be 222 in base 4. Now this process gets a little bit more complicated when you start having more digits to contend with. So take for instance 512 base 16 times 20, or base 6 times 23 base 6. So the first number I'm going to be looking at is 2 base 6 times 3 base 6, which in base 10 are the same thing, and I'm going to end up with 6. Well, 6 in a base 6 system is going to be equivalent to 10 in base 6. So I'm going to write the 0 here and carry the 1. And so I'm going to now do the 1 times the 3 plus the 1. So 1 base 6 times 3 base 6 plus 1 base 6 is what I do next, which all these numbers are the same thing in base 10. And I end up with 4 in base 10. And 4 in base 10 and 4 in base 6 are the same thing. So I'll just put the 4 down here. Now I'm going to do the 5 base 6 times the 3 base 6, which, again, both of these digits are the same in base 10. When I do 5 times 3, I get 15 base 10. In a base 6 system, that means I'm going to have 2 6s plus 3 left over, so this is going to equal to 23 base 6. And so I would write 23 here. Now that takes care of the multiplication for the first digit. Still going to multiply in a very similar way as you had done in the past. In the next line, I'm going to skip a space, and I'm going to start putting my numbers for 2 times 2 here. So 2 to the 6 times 2 to the 6th is the same thing as 2 times 2, which is 4, which is the same thing as 4 to the 6th. So the 4 is going to go here. Put the base 6 out here, but you can put the base 6 over here. It doesn't matter. Next, I'm going to do the 1 times 2. 1 base 6 times 2 base 6 is the same thing as 1 times 2, which is equal to 2 in base 10. And 2 in base 10 is the same thing as 2 in base 6, so a 2 would come here. And then the last one, I have 5 base 6 times 2 base 6, which equates to 5 times 2 in base 10, and 5 times 2 is 10. In base 6, that would correspond with 6 plus 4 left over, so this would be 14 in a base 6 system, so I would have a 14 here. And now I have to go through the process of adding. Now 0 plus nothing is 0. 4 base 6 plus 4 base 6, the same thing as 4 plus 4, which is 8, which is going to be 12 base 6. So I got to write the 2, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 plus 2, base 6, ends up being 6 in base 10, which is 10 in base 6. I'm going to write the 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 4 in base 6. It's going to give me a 7, which corresponds to 11 in base 6. I'm going to write the 1 and carry the 1. 1 and 1 in the base 6 system is the same thing as 1 and 1 in the base 10 system. It's just 2. So the final answer is 21020 base 6. On to the next one. Now with the base 12 system, it gets a little bit, it's still the same thing. It's just still a little bit more complicated. I have to make sure I'm aware that certain letters represent digits that have values in a base 10 system that themselves would be 2 digits, but in a base 12 would be a single digit. So I'm going to start with 3 base 12 times 4 base 12. That's 3 times 4, which is 12, and 12 in a base 10 system is equal to 10 in a base 12 system. So I would write the 0, carry the 1. So now I'm going to have a times 4 plus 1 in base 12s. A corresponds to the value of 10 in base 10, so 1 plus 10 times 4, which is 41. And 41 corresponds to 35 in a base 12 system. So I'd write 5 here, carry the 3. So 3 plus 6 times 4, all in base 12, would equal 3 times 6 plus 4 in base 10 as well. That would total 27, which in a base 12 system would be 2 12s plus 3 left over. So I'd have 23 in base 12, so the 2, 3 would be here. When I now multiply through the 2, since that's in, technically what this would be the 12s position, and the 12s position would start here, so that's where I'm going to start my first multiplication. So 3 times 2 is going to be 6, and 6 base 10 and 6 base 12 are the same thing. So now I'm going to do a times 2. A times 2 in base 12 is the same thing as 10 times 2 in base 10, which is 20 in base 10. And 20 in base 10 is the same thing as 18 in base 12. So I would write the 8 here, carry the 1. So now I have 1 plus 6 times 2 in base 12, which is the same thing as 1 plus 6 times 2 in base 10. That totals 13, and that would correspond to 11 in base 12. So now I have to add these two together. The 0 comes down. 5 and 6 is 11. Now 11 is actually a digit in base 12. It corresponds to the letter B. So I'm going to put a B here. I'm not going to carry over any kind of 1 because I didn't make it to a new base. I didn't make it to a new 12 place. And I have to make sure I keep that straight. 3 plus 8 is 11. Very same reason, I'm going to put a B here. No carryover. 2 and 1 is 3. 1 plus nothing is 1. So this becomes 1, 3, BB0, base 12. For this binary multiplication, it works out pretty simple because, as far as the multiplications go, you have 1s and 0s. So it's just making sure you know how to multiply things together. So if I do 1 times 1 times 1 times, I'm just going to get 1, 1, 1, base 2 again. The 0 is going to give me a level of zeros, base 2, blank space here. And then I'm going to have 2 blank spaces, and I'm going to have another layer of 1s here, which I'm all going to add together. So 1 plus nothing is 1. Same thing here, 1 plus nothing is 1. 1 plus 0 plus 1 is going to give me essentially 2 in base 10, but that's going to be a 10 in base 2. So I'm going to put the 0 here, carry the 1 here. I get 1 and 1, which is 2 again in base 10, but in base 2 it's a 10, so I'm going to write 0 and put the 1 here. And same thing, 1 and 1 is going to be a 10 in base 2, so that would be my solution to this one. So a multiplication here at base 12. I have 7a9 base 12 times 12 base 12. So I'm going to start off, knowing it's going to be a base 12, I'm going to do 9 times 2, which in base 12 and base 10 are going to be the same thing as far as individual digits go. 9 times 2 is 18 in base 12, which would give me a 12 and 6 left over, so 16 in base 12. So I'd write the 6, carry the 1. So I'm going to have 1 plus a times 2 in base 12, which would correspond with 1 plus 10 times 2 in base 10. That's 21 in base 10, which corresponds to 19 in base 12. So I'd write the 9, carry the 1. 7 times 2 plus 1, all in base 12, would be the same thing in base 10. But 1 plus 7 times 2 equals 15 in base 10. 15 in base 10 is equal to 13 in base 12. So I'd put a 13 in there. I'm going to skip a space. The last one's pretty, the second row is pretty easy because all I'm going to do is multiply these by 1. And it works the same way no matter what base you're in. So I'm just going to go do my addition now. 6 plus nothing is going to be 6 base 12. 9 plus 9 So give me 18, which is going to be equal to a 16 in base 12. Carry the 1. 1 plus 3 plus a is going to be the same thing as 1 plus 3 plus 10 in base 10, which gives me 14, which equals 12 in base 12. So write the 2, carry the 1. And 1 plus 1 plus 7 is 9 in base 12. And since that's below the base, there's no conversion. So the answer becomes 9266 base 12.
And that is the end of this video. If you have any further questions, please make sure to reach out and ask me about it. Until next time, have a good day.